What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to our NFL live show. We're talking the two-game slate. It's Monday. We got two games, football. I got my guys, Hoop, talking some cash, and AP is going to bring the tournament takes. Starting off with you, AP. What's going on, brother?
What's going on, man? Sunday was interesting for me. It all came down to like a 2v2 situation, and unfortunately, I made the wrong one, but it happens. You know what I mean? Especially in tournaments, it always happens. But I'm so pumped that they got this game going tonight, and that gives us an opportunity to make some money.
Yeah, for sure, man. And we got your Chiefs on, so you got obviously you got to have the Chiefs in the background. AP's the big
Champs.
Chief homer. Pat Mahomes, stud, of course. And then we got Hoop. Hoop's gonna bring the cash takes. What's going on, Hoop?
Oh, not too much. Looking forward to the slate. Like AP said, I'm glad they're able to get this game in. Should be add some excitement here to the Monday night. And we were talking before, it would be pretty sweet if they modified this NFL schedule and broke it up a little bit more instead of the standard 10, 11, 12 games on a Sunday. Give us a couple Mondays, a couple Thursdays. That'd be sweet, but yeah, it's exciting for tonight. Two really good games from a DFS standpoint. Obviously, Cam Newton being out adds some blowout risk to that Patriots-Chiefs game, but I still think it's a good game to look at because you have to imagine that the Patriots will need to be throwing the football to hang in there. Chiefs are big favorites, so we'll see. But yeah, overall, I'm very excited for tonight. And a lot of plays, a lot of good DFS plays for sure on basically every single team. So it makes it a lot of fun.
Yeah, so the great thing about this two-game slate, and I think you just kind of hit on it, is how many different plays we get. Now, a lot of times, even sometimes when we get two-game slates, it's centered, a lot of these teams are centered around certain guys, main guys. But I think, with the Packers, everything being up in the air with them, without obviously Lazard, and I'm pretty sure Adams is doubtful, or he's out. He's already out. So with those two guys out, it brings in pretty much everyone is kind of in the same boat outside of MVS and maybe Tyon, the tight end who saw some work last week. After that, it's kind of and Aaron Jones, obviously. But after that, it's kind of what are we doing here? Aaron Rodgers could easily spread the ball around a little bit. It wouldn't shock me to have a random receiver catch a bomb touchdown. And then you've got all the guys the Falcons have. Patriots are always just a crapshoot. The Sony Michel's out, but they still got Burkhead and James White, and then all the receivers, Bird and Harry and Edelman. I think it's just a really cool slate. And then, of course, we get the Chiefs, where if you told me any of those receivers caught 102 touchdowns, I wouldn't be shocked at all, especially on a two-game slate. So there's a lot of ways to go. We're going to try and break it down and try and narrow down some of these plays for you guys. And I think, maybe we'll just go, game by game. We only got two games, so we can just go game by game, and we'll break down each game, and you guys can talk what you like from each game. Let's start with the New England KC game. And Hoop, I'm going to start with you. You talked about the fact that obviously we know Cam Newton's out. He's got the COVID. So Brian Hoyer's going to start. I think a lot of people are necessarily going to go into their lineups, and if they're MMEing anyways, they're going to start to X out a lot of these Patriot guys. You talked about the fact that you kind of like some of these Patriots. Yeah. What are you thinking here with this game?
Right. So, I mean, okay, you look at the Patriots, and obviously new style of play with Cam Newton, as their quarterback opposed to Tom Brady, a guy that was passing a lot. We saw with the Patriots, Cam Newton, run heavy team. He was rushing it a ton. They get in the red zone. He's, their most likely threat to score the actual touchdown. Well, they don't have that anymore. And they're clearly going to be, most likely going to be playing from behind here against the Chiefs, potent offense that, I know AP is just so excited to start talking about. But, with Hoyer, they don't have that option. They're going to have to pass the football. And, if you believe our fellow employee here at RPS, Big T, Cam Newton, not very good at throwing the football. So maybe Hoyer is actually better when it comes to passing. We'll see. But I think you have to look at some of these receivers, specifically Edelman, super cheap on DK. He's full 5.3K. Harry, and then Bird, all super, super cheap. And then we get the news that that Sony Michel is going to be out and James White is coming back. Have to imagine there's a big role for James White here. I think he's a really, really good play. So I'll be looking at all those guys. Won't be playing Hoyer. Like, I don't think there's any reason to play Hoyer. I think it's even a tough case to make in tournaments. I'll let you guys touch on that. But I really can't imagine clicking on Hoyer's name with some of these other quarterbacks that are playing. And the pricing is very, very soft on DraftKings. So it's not like you're going to be getting massive upgrades if you go down to Hoyer. But yeah, on the Patriots side, I like all those guys. I think they're certainly in play in a game where they're going to be playing from behind, and they're all cheap. I mean, you get everybody on their offense. The most expensive piece is Edelman at 5.3K. So if I'm MMEing, which I am tonight, I'm going to have exposure to probably all those guys.
All right, now AP, I know you want to get right to the Chiefs, all right, but I'm gonna hold you back for a second, and we're gonna keep it with the Patriots here because I want to get your take on that and what you think about this Patriots side. Who kind of likes some of the options? I agree, Edelman is a value at that price. You've got James White and Burkhead, who are probably gonna just share the backfield and see most of the snaps. But who knows? I mean, it's Bill Belichick. There could be another running back in the mix. Yeah. What are you thinking first with the running backs from the Patriots, and then anything else over there?
Yeah, like first off, from the Patriots standpoint, is the Chiefs have been preparing for Cam Newton all week. And so now they get Brian Hoyer. I mean, from a defensive standpoint, when you're talking about getting ready for a game, like that's a massive curveball. And sure, it's Brian Hoyer, like everyone could laugh or whatever. But the fact is, you know, he might be able to throw the ball a little bit better than Cam. They don't have to worry about the dual threat with a Brian Hoyer. But here's the thing, man. Like I think, like I have a few builds that I've been looking at where I'm playing both Rex Burkhead and James White. And I'm just, you know, I feel like the Patriots have to come out. They got to try to establish the run. I think we're going to see a ton of dump offs. I think we're going to see short passes, which will bring Julian Edelman into play. But again, like they're definitely in play. The thing about the Chiefs is they are so efficient and so fast on offense, and the amount of time that they're on the field is usually less than their opponents, but they're always outscoring their opponents. And what it does is it creates a lot of opportunities. And so we're going to have the opportunities on the Patriots side. I think if you're just like crossing them out, I think that's a huge mistake tonight. So I do in the later game, and we'll talk about that. I do think there are some lock button type plays. But you got to get exposure to James White and or Rex Burkhead for sure.
All right, and if you just real quick, if you had to choose between one of them, just you can only have one today, who would you lean?
I think it's going to be James White. I think, you know, public consensus is probably really high on Rex Burkhead, especially coming off that 3-touchdown game. We haven't seen a lot from James White, obviously, you know, since that unfortunate incident with his folks, but and you gotta figure this is going to be such a good matchup for him. Look, James White and Rex Burkhead are both familiar with the Chiefs. We've seen them get it done. And I mean, Rex Burkhead a couple years ago broke all of our hearts in overtime. You know, that game that sent him to the Super Bowl. And so I expect a heavy dose of Burkhead, White, and Edelman. You know, like the Chiefs have been kind of sneaky good against some of these receivers, like outside receivers. I'm not sure what to do with N'Keal Harry and Damian Byrd, but I think they're in play. The guys I'm definitely off on this game are probably the tight end.
Looks like he froze up. Yep. Yeah, I definitely would not play the tight end for the Patriots. For the Patriots. I agree with that last statement before AP went off the air there. But yeah, I mean, just to add what he's saying, like, give me your take on Burkhead. Like, what do you think about Burkhead? I'm not super excited about Burkhead, like, just because he is. I mean, he's not at a super bargain price that we're used to. He is up to 5K. You know, he was elite value, super cheap for a while, but I mean, the price has come up. I think I just prefer White straight up.
Yeah, so it's interesting with Burkhead. I think that with him at 5K and James White at 4,700, you know, I would prefer James White. But at the same time, I do think that Rex Burkhead and him share the backfield, play about, you know, 50-50 or you know, somewhere around there. I don't see a scenario where like Burkhead sees way more snaps than James White. Even if they add a third running back into the mix, I still don't see a way where like, one gets 60 or 70 and the other gets 25 and the other gets 10 or 15. Like, I just don't see that happening. There's a way that both these guys have good games though, right? Like there's
Certainly.
a route to that success. And then if you add Edelman in there, you have to think that they're going to play to Brian Hoyer's strengths, which is that like intermediate game. He's not really a down the field thrower. I think that's why the Patriots have always liked Brian Hoyer, because he kind of fits the system, or at least how they had Brady for years, where it was, over the middle and, shorter intermediate type passes. The question is, can they run the football? The thing that the Chiefs do really well is they like to take teams their strengths away. And what happens is when they get up on teams, especially like Baltimore is the perfect example. You get up on a team like Baltimore, well, their strength is running the football. So what did you just do? You just took their strength away because you just got up 14 points on them. Now they feel they have to do different things to get back in the ball game, and they make mistakes. They don't play call the way they would if the game was closer. One of the things that Bill Belichick is really good at is like managing games in ways where he can keep that from happening. And if you watch a lot of these Patriots-Chiefs games in the past few years, Belichick has done a really good job of that. I just watched the last game from last year, and Mahomes had that like hand issue last year. I don't know if you remember that, but he had like a hand issue, but he still played through it. And the Patriots had some pressure on Mahomes. That's the one thing that I don't think we see this game. I don't see the Patriots being able to get pressure on Mahomes. I don't see them full out blitzing either, because a lot of times they were using so they were putting Gilmore on the bigger receiver for KC, so that'd be Sammy Watkins mainly. Sometimes he was on Robinson, but it was more Watkins. And then they were putting safeties over the top on the speed guys, mainly Tyreek Hill, a little bit Mecole Hardman. Even the Mecole Hardman touchdown that he caught and ran, he caught it, and there was a safety over the top. He just made a move and beat both the corner and the safety to the right side to score. So they were still using a safety over the top. That just shows you how good and how fast these guys are. So
does that make it a Kelsey game?
Yeah, I think if you're looking for the safe play, for me, like if I was playing cash, I think Kelsey is the safe play. I think Kelsey's the route to go, where, he's going to get his like 6 for 80. Does he get in the end zone or not? I don't know, but I think you can bank on the 6 for 80. And the price tags for this slate make it kind of easy to get them. Don't you agree? There's like 6,500, you'll say like main slates, you'll be like, okay, like that's paying up for a tight end. But with all the value, I mean, Edelman at 5,300, one of these Patriots running backs, and boom, like that, you can easily fit him.
Yeah, and then the other thing, even on FanDuel, like he's a little bit cheaper than those top wide receivers. So I mean, it's Hill, Julio, and Ridley. Like he's cheaper than all three of those guys, and he has just as much touchdown upside as probably more touchdown upside than any of them. So I like him. Let's bring our boy AP back in the mix. Back in here. Connection strength improved.
We need to get our Chiefs homer take. So we bring
I
him
got
back.
I got this new computer. Big T promised me that this thing would just be the nuts. And what happens? Like first show in, connection shits the bed. Oh well.
Big T got you that AOL network though. Is that Big T's fault? Your AOL network?
I don't know what happened. Like my connection's never been an issue. So who knows?
Good thing Big T's not on here to get on you about your network. We'll just hold it there.
He's probably watching and he's probably so tilted.
Let's get your Chiefs take here. Let's hear.
Yeah, I don't know where I cut off, but on the Patriots side, I do like those running backs. On the Chiefs side, yeah, I agree with the Travis Kelce take. But honestly, I think this is a Tyreek Hill game. I love the price on him. I think we're going to see some bombs over the top. Like, here's the thing. We may only see 5 catches from Hill, but I think he's going like 5 catches, 138 yards and a touchdown, and I'm going to be extremely overweight on him. I think the matchup's phenomenal. And, you know, like the Patriots have always been pretty good, like decent against Travis Kelce. And I know that they're going to, you know, if I'm Belichick, I know he wants to try to take away Kelce. And so I think there's going to be some pressure on him. And the thing is like, it's so hard to take away Tyreek Hill. And with that connection, I feel like it's going to be a big game for Tyreek. The guys I'm not as hot, like I don't really know what to do with like Sammy Watkins, Mecole Hardman, from a pricing standpoint. Like here's the thing, pricing is so soft on the slate, you can do whatever you want. And so for me, those guys kind of get lost in the mix. And I find myself getting far more shares of Tyreek Hill. And then obviously Clyde Edwards, I think is going to be a very popular play. You know, in the paths to fail, I don't know if he'll fail, but he could underwhelm from a fantasy standpoint, like production wise. And so I'm making sure like I'm locking in Aaron Jones. I know we'll get to that game. I'm trying to shift off of Edwards-Helaire just a little bit. You know, the Patriots have been pretty stout against the run. And I'm banking on a monster game from Tyreek for sure.
Yeah, so I think, you know, for GPPs, it makes a lot of sense because I did talk about how the Patriots, I don't see them being able to get much pressure on Mahomes. And what happens if there's no pressure on Mahomes, then they can set up those deep routes down the field, which are Tyreek Hill and Mecole Hardman. For me personally, I'm not going to play the outside receiver, so I'm not going to play like Demarcus Robinson and Sammy Watkins probably. I'm going to stay off those guys, and I'll play the speed guys. Because even if they play with safeties over the top, they're so fast, and if there's no pressure, that means that one of these two is going to catch a big play. You like Tyreek Hill. I think Mecole Hardman could have one of the big plays just because everyone focuses on Tyreek Hill's speed. Man, Mecole Hardman, that dude is just – I mean, he is just as fast as Hill. And he dropped the touchdown in that other game where he would have had 2 touchdowns in a huge game, and you would have needed him last time out. He dropped it right off his hands, but this kid is fast. And I agree with you though, like for tournaments, I think the pivots are the speed guys, whether you like Hill or Hardman, you know, that's up to you. But I think both are in play for tournaments. You like the KC back, Solaire. Hoop, what about you? What are you thinking here from the KC side?
Yeah, so for the KC side, I think in cash games specifically, I lean on the safety of Travis Kelce. It just seems like a game. I mean, he can do this every week, but 7 to 8 catches, 80 to 90 yards, and it's just a matter if he gets in the box or not. If he scores the touchdown, he has a big game, and you probably need him. If he doesn't score the touchdown, he's still fine for cash games. He gets you, 18 fantasy points on DraftKings. So I really like Kelce. He's probably my favorite on the Chiefs side. Edwards-Helaire, I think in cash games, you probably have to lock him in. And I'm considering even doing it in tournaments. I know some concerns here with the matchup, but I'm looking at the fact here that the Chiefs are 11-point favorites at home. Yes, first half, third quarter, if it's not a blowout, like these guys, the wide receivers can clearly get it done at that point. But at some point, if they have a big lead, they're going to turn it over to him. And there's just not much competition for work for him at this point. Like he's their guy. They're willing to give him touches in the mid-20s, very active in the passing game, as we saw last week, 6 targets for 5 receptions. He's converting his targets into receptions week in and week out. They're trusting him more in that role. And if there's going to be a lot of underneath opportunities for these Chiefs guys, which I think there is, I think he has a really, really big game. So I like him. In terms of some of the cheaper guys on the Chiefs, like I think I agree with you guys, like not overly excited about Watkins. Hardman would be the guy that I take the chance on. Just, man, so fast. I mean, he can dust basically any secondary. So really like him in tournaments. Demarcus Robinson can't really be playable at this point, right? I mean, he's on the field a lot. Just he's the exercise guy. Tony jokes.
He leads the league in drop touchdowns, right? Hoop?
Yeah, man, he
for sure does. I promise you that.
Yeah. So like I can't imagine clicking his name. I would definitely play the cheap Packers guys that we'll talk about in the next game over him. But yeah, I mean, it's there's a lot of pieces. We talked about it in the opening. It makes the slate so much fun. I mean, there is a ton of really good pieces from every team possible.
So before we get off this game and move on to the next game, is anyone here going Mahomes stacks, or are we keeping it like AP? You're playing the running back, you're playing Solaire, so are you playing Mahomes with him? Or are you more going like a running back and one of the receiving options, and then playing quarterbacks from a different game?
Yeah, so I have so I'm going the MME route tonight, and I think I'm going like 60 to 70% Aaron Rodgers and the rest Mahomes, and I'm Xing out the other two QBs. And no, what I was trying to say is I think Edwards-Helaire from a game script standpoint is going to be the popular option.
Yeah,
and what I was saying is there are some paths to not necessarily failure, but underwhelming from a fantasy standpoint. And so I'm going a lot of Mahomes to Tyreek Hill stacks for sure.
All right, yeah. Who Mahomes and cash, or you just going to the next game?
I think on DraftKings there's a big enough pricing gap between Mahomes and Rodgers, and I actually like Matt Ryan quite a bit too in this game. So I think I'll probably be saving money, but I mean it is easy to get up to the safety of Mahomes, but I don't know, like 11-point favorites here. Like if they get the big lead, do they turn it over and just run the ball a little bit? So in that other game, I could see it just being a shootout. So I probably prefer the quarterbacks in that other game. But all three, I mean, are strong plays in tournaments. I mean, Mahomes, Matt Ryan, and Aaron Rodgers, to make sure you have your lineups correlated properly, because obviously those three are going to have all the ownership at quarterback. I can't imagine many people playing Hoyer.
Yeah, Hoyer's going to be very, very low owned,
and
even on this
so,
play. Yeah, just because of the options. It's funny. So I think because Rodgers is at 7K and the options for Rodgers aren't very, great, and he's got a good running back. I was thinking, people might find the 600 to get the safety of Mahomes with the upside, because he's obviously got the upside, right? Like, yeah. I mean, he can score, The problem is, I don't know, do we project the Patriots to be playing back and forth with them? Because if you're playing Mahomes, I honestly think you need to be playing like 2 or 3 Patriots guys on the way back, in my opinion. Yeah. Unless you're just playing him for safety and cash and you're just plugging them in. But in a tournament, that's my opinion.
Look at the Baltimore game though. Like the Chiefs absolutely destroyed them. It was a blowout. And Mahomes, put up 40 DraftKings points? I'm actually rethinking kind of my construction right now. I think Aaron Rodgers has to be the most popular quarterback on the slate. You can fit in whoever you want. I might press like the lock button, Mahomes.
How is Matt Ryan not the most popular quarterback on the slate?
Matt, a quarterback in that game. Yeah, Matt Ryan or Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. So I think if we're talking tournaments, I think I might just lock button Patrick Mahomes. If he's going to be third on that list, you know what I mean?
I see. I think it's probably pretty spread out. That's kind of my read on it. Like, I think they'll probably all have pretty equal ownership, because the pricing is so damn soft. And, once you start building teams and people, okay, I'm going to put Matt Ryan in there. Well, you realize, it's a $1,400 difference between Matt Ryan and Mahomes, but it's pretty damn easy to get up there. Like the options, it's just the guys are so damn cheap. So I could see it being spread out a little bit. I don't know.
So let's move on to this game, and I'm going to give my opinion on that. But let's move on to this Atlanta Green Bay game. And my opinion on that is I disagree. I think that people not only are going to take the savings with Matt Ryan's on DraftKings, but whenever we take a quarterback, we always like getting a receiver, mainly for most quarterbacks, maybe besides Lamar Jackson and runners like that. But for most quarterbacks, and what do we see with the receivers for Matt Ryan? We see Julio Jones at 6K, Calvin Ridley at 6,900, Russell Gage at 4,500, Hayden Hurst at 4,200. Who do we see when we click Aaron Rodgers' name? We see Marquez Valdes-Scantling as the number one. Then after that, we see Robert Tonyan and Taylor, Shepard. I mean, who sticks so this is my reason why I don't believe Aaron Rodgers will be as popular as Matt Ryan is. Nobody sticks out to me. Like, you can make a Matt Ryan stack with Julio and Calvin Ridley bring it back with the number one receiver of Marcus Valdes-Scantling or Tyon from Green Bay, or both, and boom, it's perfect right there. Like you have the two best options from Green Bay, or who you think anyways, and you've got the main guys who we all know on this slate. I mean, Julio Jones is probably the most talented receiver on the slate. Calvin Ridley has been the most productive receiver consistently maybe in the NFL the first 3 weeks, right? Like,
Yeah.
So that to me is just, it makes Matt Ryan the number one owned play, especially because he's coming in at the value, unlike Rodgers and Mahomes. So let's start here. Just in a vacuum, if you for cash needed to take one, are you taking the savings with Ryan, or are you getting to Rodgers?
Oh, see, it's such a tough question. I mean, because it's one that I'm literally contemplating. I mean, and I just don't know the clearest path at this point. Like, Aaron Rodgers is the better quarterback. Their team has a higher team total. I think, he does get it done here from a fantasy standpoint. In tournaments, it's tough though, because like you said, like, who the hell do you pair him with? I mean, his best option is MVS or Tanyan. And I don't know. My lean would be, who scores more fantasy points? I'd say Aaron Rodgers, but like I said, there's that $800 savings. With Aaron Rodgers, we have these cheap guys that are in play. You have Shepard. You have what's the other guy's name? Taylor. Yeah. In the back of me and Tony talked about this on the Showdown show. In the back of Aaron Rodgers' head, he knows he's going after somebody heavy tonight. He knows who that guy is, and that's just how Aaron Rodgers rolls. We don't know who it is, but he's going to target someone at a very heavy clip tonight. I don't think it's MVS, to be honest with you. Like, MVS, you probably have to have in your player pool on the slate with the price and everything. But man, like last year, he proved he's not capable of being like the big dog there. So I think one of these random dudes has a big game. So I think you should definitely have Shepard in there. I think you should definitely have Taylor in there as well in your player pool. But man, these options for Aaron Rodgers, not very appealing. The one guy who I do like that a lot of people might overlook, that's Jamal Williams, 4.1K. Aaron Rodgers knows him. Aaron Rodgers trusts him. He stepped up when they have injuries in the past, and he's capable of catching the ball as well. So I really like Jamal Williams. Aaron Jones, clearly going to be the highest owned player on the slate, and rightfully so. I mean, he's cheap. You can get him in there. Packers have that huge total. He's got massive upside. So definitely like him.
Yeah. AP, let's bring it to you. I'll give my MVS take in a second, but let's talk a little bit. If you had to take Matt Ryan or Aaron Rodgers, who are you going with?
Yeah, I'm going with Aaron Rodgers. He just gets it done. But again, I'm going back. You've convinced me. I'm going to be extremely overweight Mahomes. Just looking at this, and looking at it right now, I'm not seeing any ownership projections, but it does make sense. Like, you can fit whoever you want in if you go with Matt Ryan. So like in cash, that's probably the right way. I mean, the guy that could break the slate is definitely Mahomes. And then Rodgers just seems like he just always gets it done. And he's playing with a chip on his shoulder right now, so you got to love that. And I hope Matt Ryan is the chalkiest guy on the slate, because I just don't mind fading him, I guess, in tournaments or being underweight. Actually, it would be a full fade for me if I'm looking at that $10 milli. And I love the take. I really love is what Hoop just brought up. I think Jamal Williams is a really sharp play, especially in that milli maker type of format. Like, if you're wanting to win, that $1 million, you got to take shots. And we know Jamal Williams can get it done. He's done it in the past. He's a guy that Rodgers is very familiar with. And then these receivers. I was coming onto the show hoping that you guys could give me some information on who you like between Darius Shepard, Malik Taylor, were the two I was looking at, and then obviously Marquez Valdes-Scantling. But then again, you got to love the tight end too, Robert Toyin. And I was just trying to think of different ways to get different. Pairing Toyin and Kelsey, I don't know how different that would be. I don't know if that's something you guys looked at, but doing some of these just weird correlation type builds, like double tight end, double running back from the same game, like maybe Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams. That's the type of thought process that I'm having when I'm approaching this Million Maker tournament.
Yeah, so first thing, I'll talk about Green Bay a little bit. I do think that they run a lot more 2 tight end sets. One thing you're definitely going to think they're going to do is try and run the ball with Aaron Jones, get Aaron Jones, as many touches as they can. He's clearly their best option, and he might be their best option whether it's the receiving game or the running game. He might be their best option. I think he's by far their most talented player on the field for Green Bay, outside of maybe Rodgers. So, like, to me, they're going to run more 2 tight end sets, which is going to keep 2 receivers on the field. So, like, really, they get to rotate those 3 or 4 guys in, as opposed to playing more with like those guys all on the field at the same time. So I do see the 2 tight end sets working out. So I don't mind both tight ends. Tanyan and what is it? Sternberger is the next guy. Like, I don't even mind him in that Millie Maker. Everyone's going to play Tanyan from Green Bay. No one's going to play this other guy, Sternberger. And again, like I said, I do see both these guys seeing a good amount of time on the field. I like both of them, as opposed to trying to figure out maybe, is it going to be Shepard? Is it going to be Taylor? Now, I do think it's Shepard. If I had to make a choice on those 2, I do think it's Shepard. But I'm going to give you one guy who neither of you brought up, and they've been using him a little all over the field. He's like a Swiss Army knife, is Tyler Ervin. I think Tyler Ervin in the Millie Maker is a really strong Millie Maker play. You guys brought up Jamal Williams. I think a lot of people are going to directly go to, okay, I think in a Millie Maker, Jamal Williams makes a lot of sense. Tyler Ervin has been used in the backfield. He's also been used as a receiver lined up, which I love, because now he's got multiple spots where they can put this guy where he's going to take a little bit away from those receivers. Like, people might be projecting those receivers for more playing time than they're actually going to get, if I believe they're going to run a ton of 2 tight end sets, if they're going to play Irving as a back and as a receiver, because he might play, in the slot a little if they do 3 wide receiver sets, as opposed to having all 3 of MVS, Taylor, and Shepard on the field at the same time. So I think Irvin, for me, is one of my favorite Millie Maker plays that no one's going to have. I already talked about the 2 tight ends for Green Bay. MVS, the reason why MVS kind of actually takes a hit is more because he's not the underneath guy. Rodgers needs that, like, underneath, midfield, like intermediate route runner to kind of open up the deep play action. They run the ball, they get the intermediate going with Adams, or it was Lazard, and then they kind of, boom, hit him downfield with MVS. So it does hurt MVS. The problem is he's so cheap, and they don't have really anyone else. He's going to be on the field as much as possible, and he always runs deep routes. And you can beat Atlanta down the field. Their defense is not good at all. He's definitely the only one probably Rodgers trusts to just let it go down the field. So I'm not saying to fully fade MVS, but I do think he does take a little bit of a hit. It just kind of depends on how much exposure to Rodgers you're going to have. So I'm going to play Rodgers and try and get different and mix and match in my MME, because I do think Matt Ryan will be the most popular play at quarterback. So I'm hoping Rodgers comes in a little under Matt Ryan, and maybe even Mahomes, but definitely under Matt Ryan. So that's where I'm going. Anything else from this game?
Yeah, like the argument against MBS is the fact that, okay, one, he's going to have very high ownership. Devontae Adams is out. That's the next guy on the depth chart. Everyone says, all right, yeah, I'm just going to play MBS. He's in play, clearly, and I think he's a strong play. He has a very clear path to busting, and I think he has the clearest path to busting out of all the high-owned type guys. Like, his path to busting is more clear than any of those other guys. So I think in tournaments, in cash game, great play, obviously. Like, the volume should be there. He's going to be, like you said, he's going to be on the field probably the whole time. Rodgers trusts them. They have some sort of connection. But in tournaments,
like how many deep shots do you think they take with him today?
Yeah, I mean, hey, Rodgers loves throwing the ball deep. We all know that, and he's going to take some shots. I mean, at least a couple of them are going to go to MVS, and right. That's why getting exposure for me to all these guys, I think, is very important because we know what Aaron Rodgers is going to do. Yes, they're going to lean on Aaron Jones a little bit more today, obviously, but he's still going to chuck that football. He loves passing. He's going to have, it's a great matchup too. High total. I mean, we're talking about a game that has a total of 57 and a half freaking points. Like that's high. So Aaron Rodgers is, one of these guys is going to have a big game. I like the Irvin call. Tony and I talked about him on the showdown video as well. I mean, just probably the lowest owned out of all those guys, just because he's not popping anywhere, the name's not showing up. But I think he has a role tonight.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's had an actual role too the first couple weeks, which is the best thing. And now you add more guys out for Green Bay. I have to think he gets a little bit of a bump because they were running him out there as opposed to having Shepard or Taylor as a wide receiver for some of these snaps. So they have to like him a little more than some of these guys you would think. He's too small. You can never line him out. Like you can't not line him out on the outside in a 2 tight end set build. You know what I mean? It doesn't work with him out there. But in the slot area, or when they're full 5, 4 or 5 receiver sets, like they can run him out there. So I think he's a strong Millie Maker play. From the Atlanta side, is there a favorite receiver? AP, I'm going to bring this one to you. Like, is it Calvin Ridley or is it Julio Jones?
Yeah, I mean it's always Calvin Ridley. The interesting thing is Julio Jones's price, $6K. That has to make him a little bit more popular, even though Calvin Ridley's been the better receiver. So I probably will have close to 100% Calvin Ridley. The guy, him and Tyreek Hill, I'm going to be extremely overweight on. I think that they are absolutely the 2 guys that could break the slate. And I want both of them in case both of them do, because you're going to need a high exposure to them. And then my plan is just there's so much uncertainty, like we've talked about in this game, on what Rodgers is going to do, who his favorite target's going to be. My hope is just by locking in, let's just say Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Calvin Ridley, then it's just mix and matching and trying to find the right, balance between the rest of these guys. And I hope I get, the right build. Hopefully it falls my way. I'm kind of curious, JSU, because I'm extremely underweight on Todd Gurley. I think I might maybe not full fade him, but pretty close to fade him. It just seems like he's another one of those guys at 5,500 that could get a lot of ownership. He's easy to click on. I think I'd rather have Brian Hill or just get running backs from the Patriots side or from the Packers side. But I'm definitely curious to see where you guys are at with Todd Gurley.
Yeah, I mean, on DraftKings for sure, I think I'd rather the pass catching upside and the running upside of a Rex Burkhead or James White or something like that. Even like you said, like a Brian Hill is an interesting Millie Maker play where I think he'll be lower owned. But we've seen him, even though I don't think he's a good running back at all, but we've seen him have at least that big play potential where he could break a 40-yard run for a touchdown. That's possible. So I don't hate that. I'm probably going to have very little exposure to Todd Gurley, even in MME. So I'm going to be with you there. Any exposure to Todd Gurley?
Gurley has a big game. I'm not going to have a big night. Let's just put it that way. Especially not on DK. And the hope is, for me, I'm hoping, like AP said, he's 5.5K. It's an easy price tag to click and just put in there as a third running back. I hope a lot of people do it. I will not be doing it. I think in this game, I think he kind of gets lost. I think Brian Hill is a guy that they'll use over Gurley. So, if Gurley has multiple touchdowns tonight, not going to be good for my pocketbook.
Yeah, Tyler Irving is questionable, guys, but he did fully practice on Saturday. So he's expected to play because he was a full participant in practice on Saturday. But, I mean, he is still listed as questionable. Julio Jones, Julio Jones freaking is 6K. Yes, he's 6K. It's not a good price tag. He could easily go for a huge game. Like you could just honestly, I think this Atlanta passing game, you could just lock in both these guys. Look at the total. There's gonna be big plays in this game. The question, especially if you like the Green Bay side to score, so like that's my thing. If you like the Green Bay side to score and keep this game close, then you almost have to love both these receivers, right? You can
Yeah.
say, "Oh, I think Calvin Ridley's going to have a bigger game," but what's the likelihood that these two are not two of the 3 or 4 highest scoring receivers on the board?
Yeah, like that's such a good point. And I'm rethinking through my process. And if I played Matt Ryan, I'd want to correlate it by playing both receivers, and I'd run it back with Aaron Jones. I think if you're going to do that, that's the route you have to take in tournaments. And so I definitely like that. So I should pause a little bit, and I don't think I'm going to full fade like some of these guys, but I'm going to make sure that if I'm playing like a Matt Ryan, I'm going full stack, like as hard as I can, stacking up that game. And that's going to be I'm not going to mix and match from either side because I just think that's a bad approach in a tournament format. But
yeah, Hoop, do you have a take there on that?
Yeah, I agree with that strategy. Like, if you're going heavy on, the Falcons, you definitely need some Packers in there, which will in turn make it hard to get exposure to that other game. I mean, the hope is if you're going heavy on the Packers and the Falcons, that the Chiefs come out, absolutely dominate, and kind of just control the clock in the second half. I mean, you got to play the game scripts, and that's what Tony and I always talk about on those showdown shows. And it's only 2 games played. It's just as important. You got to play the game script. So if you think that first game is a shootout, which seems to be pretty likely that it could occur, biggest total on the week, 2 offenses that are capable of scoring, you go heavy that game and you come close to fading. Yes, you're going to need some pieces in that other game, but it's got to be just a very small number of pieces, not a lot.
Right, exactly. So I like that. You look on FanDuel, it's a little bit, Julio Jones is 8,100 and Calvin Ridley's 8,300. A little different there, where I think there, I would still want to try, if I played Matt Ryan, to play both these guys, honestly, especially if I was just fully stacking up this game. But it's a little tougher over there to do something like that. Whereas I would want Aaron Jones in my lineup, which leaves you with a very little salary if you had to get those 4 guys in there. So you might have to make that decision over there where you play one of them, and then you might have to take a Gage or a Hayden Hurst for cheaper as a second option in Atlanta over there building. But on DraftKings, you can easily fit both these guys in there. I just think like you said, you have to play the game script a little, how you think these games are going to come, unfold. And if you think Green Bay can hang in here and score points with Atlanta, then God, these 2 receivers could easily be 2 of the 3 top receivers on the board for this 2-game slate.
Yeah, I was just pulling up some numbers here, some props and whatnot. Jamal Williams plus 135 to score. That's an incredible number for a backup, essentially a backup running back. Plus 135, relatively close to even money to score a touchdown. He's 4.1K on DK. So I thought that number was kind of interesting and stood out a little bit.
What's the likelihood that they don't just play 2 tight end sets or 2 running back sets?
Yeah, that's the thing to look at. I mean, do those guys get a lot of time on the field together? If that's the case, that's big for Jamal Williams. Aaron Jones is going to be out there. He's going to be out there a lot. But if they play both those guys, that's huge for Jamal Williams.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's something that we could see a decent amount of. AP, anything else before we get out of here?
no, I mean, not really. I think we covered it pretty well. I'm just, there's a lot of interesting routes you can go. I've been just trying to think of how to create a potentially unique lineup without fully sacrificing upside is kind of what I'm trying to do. And I think it's double, like playing Rex Burkhead and White together. I think it's going to be, something kind of like that.
I do like the Sternberger call too. Like there's a good there's a path where both those tight ends play a lot. And Sternberger, I think he had 3 catches, 30 some yards last week. So I mean, he was involved last week too.
Everyone wants to try and figure out these wide receivers, but I'm telling you, they played a ton of 2 tight end sets. Yeah. This Sternberger is going to play a lot with Tyon, however you say his name, on the field together. So who knows? I mean, they could be the 2 guys that end up leading the Packers. Like, it wouldn't shock me at all. I got Big T right now texting me while I'm on air just to let me know I think that Chris Davis donged, and that's exactly what he said. Imagine calling Crush Davis dong. That's exactly what he said. I get this constantly from Big T. Whenever Big T gets something right, like Joe Mixon yesterday. Big T was on Joe Mixon all week. I'll give him credit for it. But Joe Mixon, I was getting Joe Mixon, go Joe Mixon.
Here. Well, I can explain that very easily for you. When you don't get a lot of things right, when you finally get something right, you have to point it out, and that's why Big T does it. Very, very plain and simple. Plain and simple.
That's all right. That's Big T. What do you want? It's Big T.
Although you know what, I will say I do have to give Tony credit because man, he crushes those sports betting picks on the betting side. Like he's been on fire. Like
he has been on fire. Three weeks in a row. He's crushing.
He's crushing these long teaser things. I don't even know what the hell they are. He explained it to me once. I still don't understand how they work. But isn't it just like moving the line? You do these 2-team parlays, but you want to make sure you're moving it past the touchdown. So you're targeting teams that are like +1.5. So you go from +1.5 to +7.5, right? Do you guys know much about them?
No idea.
So, yeah, I
said he explained it to me once, and I don't understand.
I couldn't give you a long teaser breakdown. We would need Big T to jump on.
Yeah, we gotta get the Wong specialist.
I'll make sure on the Friday Print Factory show that we do, I'll make sure he breaks it down for the people because he's done it before. It's a little confusing. I won't lie. When Big T talks, I mostly try and tune him out because I need to
smart.
Focus a little bit, and he just.
Someone that's been working very closely with Big T recently with all these showdowns and everything. Sometimes you just gotta, tune out for a little bit and reset.
Yeah, you gotta turn him off a little bit. You know what I mean?
I hope to God he's watching. He's got to be watching, right?
I'll tell you right now, if he was watching, he would be texting me or you right now. I can guarantee it. So, that's it. But he called a Chris Davis bomb. Like that's it. We're gonna end the show here because. I can't give him any more credit. He's not even on this show. I don't want to do it. But, of course, everyone in the chat's doing it. So, Chris Davis is sneezing on us. We're going to get out of here, though, guys. Make sure, if you haven't checked us out over at Run Pure Sports, get over there. Check us out. We had cores up for baseball. We got cores up for this 2-game slate. We got the showdown video that Hoop and Big T recorded already today. The playbook for 2-gamer showdown, that's all up and out. So make sure you get over there, check that out if you haven't, and get in the Discord because we'll be in there answering questions. But for me, JSU, Hoop, and AP, we'll see you tomorrow.